Hey there, Christy with Automation on a Mission with your latest Business Booster installment. And this week we are talking about branding for business at every stage of business. Now, I've done this training before, so I'm using some of the slides I've used before, but I did add a little twist to this one just to have a little bit of fun in case this is the first time you're ever tuning into this particular topic. So I've got some fun slides. Let me share my screen right fast. I'm going to try and get this right on the first try. And let's dive in. As soon as I find it myself. There we go. So yeah, there we go. All righty. So branding for every stage of business. So the first thing that I want to ask you, or I want you to be thinking about, is exactly what comes to mind when you think of branding. And chances are it's going to be something along the lines of your logo. Now, we're going to talk about logos and colors and fonts and things like that. But what I want you to be mindful of is that what you focus on may vary depending on where you are in your own business journey. Because for starters, finances might be, certainly a factor in your decision-making process, and also how mature your business is and exactly where you are in terms of awareness with the community that you're serving certainly also plays a part in exactly where you put your time, your energy, and your focus. So if you've been around the block for a little while, I want you to be thinking about where you were when it came to branding when you first started your business, and where are you today? And what does branding mean for you as it relates to the things that you focus on and the priorities that you focus on as it relates to branding based on your current day-to-day efforts? So one of the things that I really love that Seth Godin has said is that every interaction in any form is branding. And what that means to me is it is so much bigger and so much more than just what our logo looks like, what our colors are, what our fonts are, and certainly they play a part in this, but really our brand is also things like our values, the style and the tone of our communication, the way we send out our emails, or maybe it is the way we communicate. Maybe a part of your brand is only to send direct mail, or maybe you only send text messages, and that's a part of your reputation. Maybe because, let's say, for example, you're in the business of selling text message solutions. Maybe email isn't helping you maintain that brand. Something that I think about is I'm not going to be that person who buys an email list to market to as a part of my vision, my values, because a part of my brand is talking about email automation, which also includes email integrity and the ethics related to email. So we're talking way far beyond just colors and fonts and logos when we start to think about all of the other layers that might be falling under this idea or this concept of brand. Because brand, at the end of the day, is your identity. It is the thing that that people are going to connect with or remember about your business, even if they remember nothing else. So it is things like your company logo, it is your story, how you came to be, it is about your values, it is about exactly what makes you special and unique in the world. It's about the products and services that you offer. So I just gave you an example that a part of our product is email marketing and email automation. And so it is in contrast to my brand, as I talk about deliverability a ton, to buy a list. What does that look like in your world? What are the things that are a part of your products and services that make it so that this other thing over here may or may not be something that's in direct alignment or in contradiction to what it is that you do? Visual elements like your logo, color palette, typography, it's your messaging, it's how you talk about your mission, your vision, your values, it's how you share your messaging, it's your tone of voice. I don't know if you've noticed, but like I'm a little cheesy. I got some dad jokes, and when I have an opportunity to stick those in my my content, a lot of corny memes tend to come out. If you are super uptight and rigid, my brand is probably not going to resonate with you because it's full of astronauts and rockets and it's cartoony and goofy and those things, because that's who I am and I'm such a big part of my brand. So same thing is true for you. We have a client who I love seeing her stuff. I can see it recognize it from a mile away, because whether it's the color or the leopard print or it's this chair or something, it's just like I recognize it because I also see it as an extension of her, and she too is the face of her brand. And then your customer experience is also such a huge part of your brand as well. Exactly what does that look like? So as an example, in our world, we are in the world of making automations happen for you all as members and for the clients that we serve in any way, shape, or form. So if we are constantly building things that require constant manual execution that could also effortlessly be automated, that may not fit with our brand, right? So we're always not only thinking about how to automate things for you all, but also how to automate things for ourselves. It's not just role modeling, it's a part of our brand. So I picked this picture. I love this. So tailor your branding strategy as your business evolves. So what you focus on in the beginning of your business versus 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, that really does change. And one of the things that I remember hearing a client say to me when they first started working with me was that they had just like invested like a sizable amount of money. I'm talking like thousands of dollars for somebody to develop a logo. And when I saw the logo, number one, I wasn't like supremely impressed by the logo, but like their business was still very much in its infancy. It was a conceptual business. And so taking this amount of finite resource, in this case, her money, and putting it towards developing a logo, to me, I was like, well, it feels a little icky, because that money could be spent on so many other things to help ensure that the brand is developed and carried out. And so the reason why, I think about what you do today versus what you do 10 years from now, 20 years from now, really needs to be appropriately driven by exactly what stage of business you're in. And I picked this particular picture on this slide because I'm going to guess, and I'm talking to myself here, that you know exactly who this is. This is Starbucks, right? So when you saw the Starbucks logo for the first time, and I'm going to date myself and also most of our clients, in the probably early to mid 90s, this is partly what the logo looked like, but at the bottom of the mermaid was the name of the business, Starbucks. But over the years, their brand is so well recognized that they don't have to have the words, that you know exactly who it is because they are on every street corner. There's a Starbucks inside of another Starbucks, right? So they are at a place where they can just use a simple graphic and that's Starbucks. And so with that, I want to have a little fun and talk about, like this is the end goal. And mainly I just want to give you something to just to be thinking about how we can think about the consistency and the payoff of that. So when you look at this, it is not a logo in its entirety. I'm gonna guess with like 99% certainty that you know exactly what logo this is. This is the most recognized logo in the entire world. It is Coca-Cola, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can show just a snippet, a little tiny snapshot of this logo, and people everywhere are going to know this logo. How about this one? Now, again, I'm a Gen Xer and I'm going to date myself. This is actually the McDonald's logo from, I think it was 1968. And then, as the decades have gone by, they made small variations of the McDonald's logo. It went from being a white background with red letters to a red background with white letters. And now it's just the M that you see everywhere. If you look at old retro McDonald's, like the actual restaurant itself, it was the golden arches. So sort of interesting how they actually put their brand in their like physical architecture, ages ago. Amazon. And I wanted to sort of point this one out because this logo is super fun for a couple of reasons. And I realize now that I put this picture up here that what I was really trying to focus on was the smile. But the smile is actually only a part of the impact of what they did in their logo. So what the arrow does is it actually goes from the bottom of the A all the way to the Z. And so if you've never done any sort of research about logos, the assumption or the word on the street, the urban legend about the Amazon logo is that that they handle everything from A to Z. And that the smile is also representative of certain elements of their brand and their culture as well. So, just a couple of examples of things that you get as a part of an evolving and maturing business is, number one, you get to spend lots of money to have people come up with clever and creative things that you can incorporate into your brand and your brand identity. And wouldn't it be amazing to build a business that by the time you reach that mature state in business, that you can have just a mermaid on the side of a cup and people know exactly who you are. But that's not where most of us are. If you're watching this video, in all likelihood, the things that we're going to talk about in the earlier stages are going to be a little bit more relevant to you. So if you are in the startup stage, the things that you want to be thinking about and focusing on before you're paying attention to things like making sure that you've got a hidden secret message. Oh, by the way, I actually found another fun statistic. The first Twitter logo cost them $15. So you don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars or even millions of dollars to make an amazing logo. You can, get somebody on Fiverr if you need to, or just go find something in Canva and it can work just fine. But if you're in the startup stage, the goal and the focus and the priority should not be taking your finite time, money, ideas, and decision-making and focusing on, all of these, expensive and extraneous things. It's really about identifying exactly who you are and what you do, like what do you stand for? And if you've not gone through any exercises to be clear on what your mission and your vision are, this is time well spent. Even if you're in a later stage, if you find that we're talking about things that you have not done, go back and do them, because then it does make the process of executing on your brand that much easier. How can you be clear in your messaging and your branding about your mission and vision if you're not clear on what they are yourself? How do you know that you're consistently delivering on that mission and vision if you don't know what those are yourself? Knowing your target audience and niche. And it's funny, I've been doing a lot of trainings lately and recording a lot of content, and all of the content, it doesn't matter what we're talking about, it always comes back to who do you serve, knowing and understanding that niche. So I'm just going to say the same thing I say over and over again, like a good broken record. If you don't know who you serve, take the time and do it. And if it's been a hot minute since you've done any sort of customer avatar, client avatar, go and do the exercise. And if you think I don't want to rule people out, remember that the more you are clear on exactly who you serve and who you don't serve, the easier it is for you to deliver your messaging to ensure that your brand speaks to them. So it's always an exercise worth completing. And then what is your unique selling proposition? And if that's a difficult thing for you to wrap your brain around, and at some people it is, start to think about exactly what problems you solve. And then how are you doing it in a way that's different than your competition? What makes you special? And if you can't think of it still, go and talk to some of your clients or talk to some of your friends who know and love and believe in you, because they will 100% help you get clear on exactly what this is. And then write it down, because it's probably also the hardest thing for people to remember. They get a handle on it about as effectively as they get a handle on their 15-second elevator speech. And then it comes time to use it and they're like, I forget, you know what I mean? So write it down, get comfortable knowing and understanding what this is, and make sure that it's embedded in what you say and do in all of your emails, and how you're networking and how you're talking about your business. So here's an example of what I'm talking about in that regard. So we have worked with clients for a decade, specifically around sales and marketing automation. But when it comes to automation on a mission as a core offer, I have said for 3 years now that we are not interested in selling technology. I'm not interested in selling you another SaaS product. I'm interested in selling you the perfect customer journey. And you can go and find some sort of system that's just like automation on a mission. You might even find that it's a little bit cheaper than automation on a mission. But what you're not going to get is our perfect customer journey. What you're not going to get in our system is making sure that you have all the automation tools for that time where somebody says, I don't know who you are, to, oh my God, this person is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I'm going to guess that that's not the first time you've heard me say that, because that is my unique selling proposition. So what's yours? What is it that you do that's special? What is it that you do that is different than other people who do similar or complementing work? And then how do you incorporate that into your messaging? So your messaging at this stage, at your startup, figuring out exactly what kind of voice do you have. So another example from our world is earlier this year, we were still calling our business Confluence Business Solutions. And when you went to the site, it was pretty. It was mostly women, graphics, stock photos, plenty of photos of me, that sort of thing. But it wasn't, when I was talking to a lot of strangers, they would say, oh, I really got this feeling that you were more serving corporate clients. And that was never my intention. So my branding was totally off for the last, 2 or 3 years, however long we had that particular version of our website. But when we dropped the Confluence name and we went with Automation on a Mission, I spent a ton of time thinking about just the name Automation on a Mission. And like the rocket as a part of our logo is there because I think so much about what we do is propel you to get you to this other destination. And it's, the sky is like the limit, and so one thing led to another, and I'm not corporate. I also have no interest in working with corporate clients. So do you resonate with the astronaut? I hope so. Like, do you think that my colors are fun and cute and things like that? I hope so. But really, for me, what I was trying to accomplish is I want you to see my personality in there because that's the person that you're working with. You want to see my team and they resonate with that sort of tone and that sort of content and that sort of messaging and communication strategy. So if you're in the startup stage, it's really about your branding is focusing on foundation building, knowing what your mission and your vision is, knowing who exactly it is that you serve and you don't serve, understanding what makes you special and being able to clearly articulate that consistently and incorporating that into your messaging. When building a strong foundation for your brand and creating a cohesive message, because there's tons of change and fluidity happening in this stage of business. So if you're past the stage of startup or the foundational stage, I want you to think about where you were to where you are today. And I'm going to guess that there are some pretty substantial differences between those two things. Because a lot of times we start with something that's 100% from the heart and we are driven by this like sort of mission, this this calling, and then when it comes time to execute it, we figure out what we're good at, what we're not good at. We figure out what we want to do, what we don't want to do. And that sort of helps us define or refine our offerings and the work that we do. And that is totally normal. The second stage is growth. And in this stage, what you should be focusing on is how to expand your brand and your presence. So notice that up to this point, we still haven't started like really talking about a logo and colors. And that doesn't mean that you don't have logos, colors, and fonts. All those things are done is to help you with consistency. The focus, though, up to this point is really about ensuring that you are building the infrastructure that helps people know and understand what you're about so that they can either select in or select out. But in the growth stage, this is where we start talking about consistent visual branding. This is where you start thinking about, like maybe you don't have the skills yourself to figure out what your color palette is. So you make your best guess at the startup stage. You hit the growth stage and now you're going to get more refined. My visual brand needs to reflect my personality and I need to make sure that it really fits and that my content strategy is in alignment with all of those things, that my networking and where I hang out is in alignment with that community that I identified in the startup phase. Who is my target audience? What is my niche? Getting your products cleaned up again, knowing exactly what those things are, making sure that your messaging is consistent. And, the beginning, it could just be about, let's just get some messaging out there. And then once you hit the growth stage, now it's time to start to develop the infrastructure. Now it's time to start thinking about frequency. What are the channels that we are seeing the greatest potential? I know my people hang out here, and therefore these are the places that I'm going to put my effort because our time is limited and our resources are limited. So we want to make sure that we're getting the best ROI for our efforts. And then a clear customer story. So starting to see the success of our efforts, being able to tell those stories to your future buyers, to your customer avatar. Because establishing your brand in the market and attracting new clients is the fundamental thing about that growth stage. Yes, we are talking about the visual identity of the organization, but really what we're talking about is how do we put it out there into the market so that people know and understand, oh, that's right, this is so and so. If you're in the third stage, the established stage, now we're going to start to look at our messaging, not from the place of creating it for the first time, but ultimately changing the messaging so that we are more effective at the work that we're doing. So we've been in business for a hot minute. We've seen the successes, we've seen the pitfalls, we identified the challenges, and now we're going to work on optimizing. We're going to work on fixing the stuff that we are recognizing as weaknesses in our brand, weaknesses in our model, weaknesses in our messaging and our communication. In the established stage, this stuff here around customer feedback and testimonials should be like, ingrained as a part of your daily habits. And we do tons of training specifically about the importance of collecting testimonials and referrals, making sure that they're readily available and visible to your future buyers, making sure that you have automation to support that, because nobody has time to do that kind of follow-up on an ongoing basis. And then also like knowing and understanding what's the industry trends. What is the future look like for the world that you live in? So let's say, for example, you are a photographer. How are the current trends impacting your business? And what do you see coming down the pipeline? If you're in real estate, how is the current market impacting the way that you communicate, the way that you share information with your clients? And I don't have a ton of real estate clients, but I do actually get emails from our real estate agent, and I bring that up because I really love the way she talks about the market. And having just made a big move in the last year, selling and buying, I've been keenly interested in hearing what's the pulse. Number one, did we make a good choice to move when we did? Number two, like, hey, how long are houses sitting on the market? Because I certainly notice an awful lot of for sale signs in my neighborhood. Those kinds of things. Paying attention to those industry trends not only helps you with stability in your own business, but it helps you prepare. It helps you innovate. It helps you adapt. And how do you use that information to create confidence in the community that you're serving? How do you convey that information, like my real estate friend who's telling me what the market looks like, who's telling me exactly, our interest rate's going to go up or down? Does that matter to me? Absolutely. Maybe I want to refinance, those kinds of things. So if you're at the established stage, maybe you are in the world of photography, like I mentioned before, and AI is starting to trickle into your world. And how do we use AI, not in a way of like, I'm going to put on the brakes and say, oh my God, this is terrible, this is scary for my world. How do I embrace it? How do I build confidence and also continue to talk about my unique value proposition to my community in the same breath that I'm talking about how, exciting AI is, even if it's also something that is changing the way people view the work that I do, for example. So that's just a couple of different ideas. So at the third stage, the focus is ensuring your brand stays relevant and continues to meet the needs of your target audience. If you're not paying attention to the industry trends, if you're not paying attention to what your competition is doing, it's very possible that these guys become more relevant than you because you're not evolving over time. And in the fourth stage, it's all about expansion. Now, this is maybe the place where you're starting to talk about spending tens of thousands or even millions of dollars on making a logo that doesn't have your name in it because everybody knows exactly who you are. It's about diversifying your products and your services to make sure that you are serving the market as effectively and efficiently as possible. And the more you're in people's household, the more they start to use your name as a verb, like Amazon or Google and those sorts of things. How can you look at your brand in new markets or serving different segments? Developing those kinds of strategic partnerships allows other people to promote your brand without you always having to do the heavy lifting. So in this fourth stage, growing your business while maintaining that strong brand presence. It's not about losing what you've done before. It's about taking that as the foundation to springboard you to the next step in your journey. And then the fifth stage, maturity. So focusing on brand reinvention and adaptation, rebranding or refreshing your brand's look and feel. So trying to think, and I didn't come up with a good example, but there's no shortage of companies out there. Oh, okay. Actually, I just came up with one. So I came from, in the world of automation, I came from Infusionsoft. And Infusionsoft was, at the time when it first came out, one of the only, if not the only, automation platform on the market. They were a little bit pricey. It was also insanely robust. You could do so much stuff with it. And it also, because of its complexity, got dubbed Confusionsoft. And so there were tons of people in my world, in the like freelancer or contractor or, agency businesses, that were out there making tons of money selling Confusionsoft, selling how to capitalize on, even though they loved the platform, they were making money on the fact that it's hard. And they marketed it that way. And so at some point, Infusionsoft said, they hit this stage of their business growth and said, we're going to reinvent our brand so that it's, number one, easier, more user-friendly. And number two, we're going to get rid of Confusionsoft. And so they changed their name to Keap. And in that process, developed a new version of the same system. Now, love it, hate it, one way or the other, they got rid of the ability for people to capitalize on Confusionsoft, but they also really worked on making sure that they were taking the feedback of the industry and making sure that they were responding to it accordingly. So not everybody needs this insanely robust automation system. Maybe they need something smaller and something simpler and something that the visual appearance of it is just more user-friendly. So that's what they did. Now, also, as a quick side note, they have not done a great job of innovating and understanding exactly how to stay competitive with what the competition is doing. But also, it's a highly volatile market. So in this maturity stage, it's staying ahead of the competition and continuously evolving to meet the changing needs of your audience. So I would say, specifically because the kinds of businesses that I attract, most of our clients are in the established to the startup phase. So where are you in this process? Are you in this place of starting to build the foundation that you want people to know and understand and recognize you by? Are you in that place of, now it's time to start building some consistency and making sure that people understand exactly what my messaging is, how I solve problems, so that they can both work with me and also refer business to me? Are you an established business that's looking at springboarding off of your initial success and increasing your presence, asking for testimonials and feedback, looking at what the competition's doing, evolving? Where are you in this business process? And how are you using that in your day-to-day brand to ensure that people know who you are, know what you do, know what problems you solve, and what your unique value propositions are? And that is our training today on branding for every stage of business. As always, let me know if you have any questions. We are always here to serve. Thanks so much.